Welcome to the Let's Eat Grandma Career Warrior Podcast. So, Shelley, today we're going to be going behind the scenes of the hiring process. We're going to look at the world of recruiting and hiring managers. But let's get a little bit real here. How is this information going to help job seekers at all? What's the point?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm a big believer that knowledge is power. If you're going to be doing something that's going to impact your life, I think it behooves you to try to understand the process as much as you can. That way you can anticipate bumps in the road and understand why they're happening. It also helps you to understand where you can engage in the process that may be beneficial to you. So I think your listeners might get that information from our discussion today.
So let's launch right into it. Who are the key players of the hiring process? I know a lot of people get confused. A lot of people are like, okay, who's making the decisions? But let's hear it from someone who's been in it for a long time.
Sure. So there are several decision makers actually in the process, but in terms of who are the key people, that is obviously going to be the hiring manager, who will ultimately make the decision on whether the person will join the company, and whoever is assisting that person with recruiting. So that can be usually a recruiter. It could be an HR manager, usually somebody in the HR department. Now, other people who may be in that process would be other stakeholders who have a interest in who is hired, and they may be part of the interview process. So when you have multiple interviews, that's usually who's brought in. You may be working with a sourcer who either is an employee of the company or is contracted. They have a special job, and their job is to find candidates. They proactively go out into the market. So that might be a first encounter with the company, but then you may get involved or passed on to a recruiter. There may be some administrative people that reach out to you for scheduling or other information, but that's the core group of people that most people who are in the job search might deal with.
What do people need to know about the ATS in terms of applications?
The ATS is a tool. It is not evil, though some people think it is.
Some people think it is.
It is a tool to help recruiters manage the applicant flow. It essentially, it helps the recruiter not forget you. It's the best way I can describe it. You have a profile, you have a status, you have everything in one place, and so that is helpful. Now, people get a little bit afraid because they hear, well, the ATS, it's going to decide whether I move forward. That's not really correct.
Okay.
The ATS is programmed by humans. So the humans are making the decisions for the ATS. So as an example, if you have, it's a position where you are driving and you need to have a valid driver's license, and you say you do not have a valid driver's license, the ATS may say you're not qualified, and therefore they pull you out of the people that are applicable for that job.
Okay.
But that's a decision made by the company, not by the applicant tracking system.
So Shelley, let's talk about the selection of candidates for the interview. So you've connected with the hiring manager on the types of people that you want for the organization. You've put out the job posting, you've attracted possibly hundreds of resumes. What happens next? How do you start to whittle that down to get people to interview?
Okay. Well, I'll speak for myself. I would keep notes on all of the applicants that I spoke with. I would, as I was talking with them, I would type my notes, and I would give, my general impressions of the person. I would write down specifics that they talked about. And then usually at the end, I would give them a ranking based on my knowledge of the job, what I think, on a 1 to 5. And then, so I would then work with that hiring manager. I would go through the information with them and tell them who I thought that they should speak with. Usually, my hiring managers would prefer to speak with at least 2 to 3 people for more of an in-person interview. And my experience, and I can say it with me, also because I was very tenured and experienced with this in this role,
Yeah,
is
you
that
had some power.
I had some power. That generally my hiring managers would go with my suggestions. There were times when they wanted to look at everybody and they may decide that somebody else should be added to that group. We would talk about it, why they thought that, was there something that I missed that they found to be very interesting about the person. And so we would go kind of back and forth about that. I will just add, very rarely was that the person that they wanted to add hired. And there's a reason for that, because
Yeah.
through my time with the candidates, I really got a good sense of knowing who they are and their fit. So,
Okay.
but anyway, that's kind of how the back and forth went to decide who was in the group that would actually meet with the hiring manager.
Let's say I have reached the final stages of the hiring process. I've been killing it. My resume was awesome. I've been screening well, interviewing well, and I have that final interview. What am I going to do to ensure that I stand out among the maybe 1 or 2 other people that I'm competing against to land that dream job?
Okay, there's some things you should do. One, make sure, and hopefully you've been doing this the whole time, is research well the people who will be interviewing you, to understand a little bit about their background and experience, and also, if you can, to get additional information, and that can be through your contacts in the company or anybody who's previously worked at the company, if you can, to know a little bit about them and their hot buttons and what they will find is important. That way, that helps you prepare
Okay.
for questions that they might ask that would be important to them. And so preparation is always important. The other thing I will tell you is for the final interviews, whoever that might be, and that might even be a panel interview, is while the hiring manager may be the ultimate decision maker, they often are not doing that decision alone. So they may need approval from their manager, and often their manager will be in the process as well.
Right.
And so you need to make sure you are impressing everybody in the process, not just the hiring manager. So if you have an interview with even a potential peer, make sure that you are preparing for that interview like you would with the hiring manager. Their opinion is valued, and you do want to make sure you make a positive impression.